mistakes that traders make. Hi, it's Charlie giving you Saturday's video. And so let's go delve straight into these. And I think even if you have experience as a trader, these are a time, or some elements of these will be a timely reminder. They certainly were for me. It was one of our senior members in our trading room did a session this week. I do the majority of sessions in our trading room, but some of our senior members also do sessions as well. And he's had 33 years of experience. He's an ex-City bond trader, and so he's got plenty to offer as well to our members. And like many of our other senior members who do sessions, but this gave me an idea. It was a couple of things that he mentioned. And so the first mistake that traders make is they overtrade. A lot of traders overtrade. We can all be guilty of that at times. And this is what I'm saying. It doesn't matter if you're a new trader or you're an experienced trader. At times we can overtrade. So how do we know if we're overtrading? That's probably the hardest thing to know. And certainly as a new trader, that's a lot more difficult. Most new traders do overtrade. But even as an experienced, if you're more experienced, you'll know if you're overtrading because you're starting to trade outside of your normal parameters. The normal way that when things are going well, you trade, take a certain amount of trades. When things are, maybe the markets are getting difficult or whatever, that's when you're more inclined to overtrade to compensate. So overtrading, but as a general rule of thumb, whether you're swing trading or intraday trading, it's one of the key mistakes that traders make. So do look at that. And it's that old saying, less is more. I find that in the main, most traders are, and I'm going to come to a conclusion on this, by the way. There's something at the end of this to conclude. But most traders are, they think that trading more equals more profit, and it's a real problem because we've got so many people out there in the social media world who are making all sorts of claims with regards to trading and the likes, and it's implied that doing more is better, and so you can't blame people for overtrading because they think that they should be doing something. And that comes back down to this whole work versus trading argument, that in work, we get on with our job. Trading is different whether you're day trading or swing trading, that a lot of the time we probably should be sat on our hands, or more often than we think, at least anyway, relative to our normal trading style. So but of course, we have that innate feeling that we should be doing something. Well, trading is a bit more like fishing in a way. You throw your fishing line out and then you wait for the catch, and that's really an analogy to think of when you're starting to feel like you might be starting to overtrade. So that's the first one. The second one that I've written down here is, and of course, this list is by no means exhaustive at 3. There's so many more that I could put in, but I wanted to put these 3 in. So another one, 3 mistakes traders make, and I'm not going to go down the direct risk route today. So another one is, oh, maybe I am, is too many markets, trading too many. Again, that comes back down to this theme of over trading, but too many markets. And so it comes back down to this theme of over trading, really. So you've got over trading itself, and then you can have people just watching too many markets. A lot of the time, not always, it depends on your trading style, but for most people, they're probably better off trading. Again, it comes down to that theme of less is more. They're scanning too many markets, trying to keep an eye on 20 or 30 different markets or more. How can you possibly know how those markets are going to be moving in a more intimate way by having that many markets. So most traders should probably be trading a little bit fewer markets as far as their overall watch list. So if your current watch list, let's say, is 30, see if you can take 10 out. I'm not asking you to make drastic changes. I mean, I scan 10 markets or more every day, but they're all interrelated. So I'm scanning 10 or so markets, but I get to really understand at least their interrelationships. So if you currently scan 30 markets, maybe you look at 20. So take that work away from yourself. I appreciate that, of course, some people have a very different might have a different systemized, so to speak, approach where they need to have a lot of markets in a watch list because they have a low frequency pattern or whatever that they might be trading. But for a manual trader, most manual traders are looking at too much. So they overtrade and they're looking at too many markets. If you reduce the amount of markets that you trade, you might find you don't overtrade as much, because the temptation to trade more, if you're watching so many markets, is obviously going to be greater. So the final one here is risk per trade. And I'm going to summarize here. There's something to take from this. So risk per trade. Again, another mistake that a lot of traders have is they risk too much risk per trade, too much per trade. I think I mentioned this a week ago that we had an inquiry from someone who was risking 8% of their account per trade. I mean, wow, it's not their fault. They don't know any different. And a lot of the time people want to risk more per trade because a lot of people are trading in relative terms small trading accounts. So they want to get more bang for their buck. But the risk is, if I can, having all the experience I have, can have multiple losers in a row, then certainly someone who's only been trading less than 5 years, they're going to as well at some point. Doesn't matter what your win rate currently is, you're going to have multiple losers in a row at some point. And if you're risking 8% per trade, then that's a potential account killer. So risk per trade, a lot of people risk too much, and I understand it. I understand why people do it, but there are ways to get more out of your trade without taking big risks at outset. And I do a lot of that stuff in our trading community. So you don't have to put on big risks at outset of a trade and take that big risk on. But again, this is a common mistake that so many traders will do, risking too much. I understand they want that account growth, but what's the point in having the account growth if you're putting yourself in the crosshairs of a account blow up, and that's the risk of taking high risk per trade. So what's the summary here? Now, again, it comes back to what I said at the beginning. Unfortunately, the influencers out there in the wider trading community, with the sort of content that's put out there, is luring people into trading more often, trading all sorts of different markets, trading at high risk as well, because the temptation to make big gains is there. So I understand that's eating away at the masses out there when they're seeing that sort of stuff. But it ultimately comes back down to a certain extent, excitement. Traders do get excitement from the market, from trading the markets. It is exciting. The markets themselves are an exciting entity. The thought of being able to click a button, put a trade on, and then making more money in a day than you can make in a week in your job, of course, is there. And so excitement is something which is inherent, and it's that desire that can lead people to overtrade and do all these things. Now, the thing is with trading the markets is it shouldn't be exciting. It should be, to use the word boring would be probably too far the other way, but certainly we shouldn't be craving excitement from trading. If you want excitement, go out there and do a I don't know, an adrenaline sport or whatever. Trading you shouldn't be getting excited from. There's no way you should be getting highly emotional where you feel sick in your stomach from taking a trade and having a losing trade. Something's wrong if you're doing that. So trading can be at times, of course, frustrating when you do have a loser or a period of losers, or a trade that's been running well for you and then rolls away over and trading stops you out, and all of those things. But you want as I always say, you want to be desensitized. So if this is your emotional plane, so to speak, what you don't want is your emotional plane doing this. That's not healthy. It's not good for your overall health, stress levels, elevated cortisol levels. That's not the way to trade. And if anyone tells you, oh yeah, I did this and I was, so excited, or I did this and I was, throwing up, that's not the way to trade, because that's not healthy. That's not good for your long-term health, and it's not good for your immediate stress levels either. So we need to be able to trade in a way whereby, yes, of course, we're human beings after all. We're still going to feel it when like I've just said here, a trade comes back down and pulls back down against us after being in a nice profit. Or we're going to feel it if we hit our targets up here and we have a great trade. You're going to feel some form of I don't want to use the word excitement, but you're going to see euphoria, but you want it to be desensitized euphoria. Yes, you're going to enjoy the moment, but that should be it, rather than planning where your next Ferrari you're going to buy or whatever on the back of that. And so we need to be desensitized in overall towards as much as we can to our trading. And the way that we can desensitize ourselves is to what? Risk less per trade probably not as much as we might have otherwise been, and not trade as many markets potentially as well, so that our stress levels are not elevated, and that it's a managed, desensitized emotional range that we have towards our trading. It puts us in the game for long-term profits, because that's what we're in it for. And yet many traders forget, because they want that short-term gains. But the reality is, you want to be around in the next 5 years. I come across so many people over the years who come along on YouTube or I see people at events, and they're not around 2 years later because they've blown up their accounts, or they've quit because they've done it the wrong way. So I want people to treat their trading the right way, so that it doesn't matter what happens now and in the next month and the next 2 months, that they're still in the game over the next year, 2 years, 5 years. Because if you're over trading and over risking, the likelihood is you won't be. And so that's my general advice for today for the masses out there. Please do like and share the video if you think this is useful information, and I'll be back in touch next week.